Time is the most finite, precious resource that your high ticket buyers are making decisions with or without. Time is the thing that they do not have enough of.
I talk about building the features inside your offers as taking away things from people's to-do list versus adding more content, more worksheets, more things to figure out, is giving them more things on their to-do list to work through. And we want to be doing the opposite. We want to take things off of the to-do list.
Less features and avoiding the bloat, being mindful of removing any of that bloat for yourself and for your clients as well.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Volume podcast. If you don't know me, it's Vix Meldrew. And the reason you might not know me is because we are also on Ellie Swift's The Scalable Freedom Show. Ellie, thank you for joining me in this joint podcast. We are going to have so much fun.
Hello. I'm so excited to be here. It's always really strange when you're on two podcasts to actually know how to introduce people, and people would have just automatically opened and gone to the Scalable Freedom Show and are now wondering if they're listening to the right podcast.
Right. Yeah.
So good. I'm so excited to be here with you, my friends. So for those of you that are listening, you are probably wondering what we're doing here, what this collaborative podcast looks like. So we're going to tell you all the details in just a moment, but we thought it would be most useful to just start with an explanation of who we both are, because we know that for some of you, you might know both of us, but it's more likely that you know one of us, depending on which podcast you're listening to. So I am here with the incredible Vix Meldrew. So this is basically an opportunity for me to just say all the things I know and love about you, but let's talk a little bit about context here. So we first connected, you slid into my DMs, I want to say maybe 18 months ago, and we had a bit of a, oh, hi, I know you moment. Side note, for anyone who wants to make any business besties online, I've made so many connections, I'm sure you have as well, through just sliding into people's DMs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was the start of our friendship. We connected. There was a bit of a, we know one another. I've always loved Vix and her content. I would say you're big on threads. That's how I really know you and your work. And then from there, we both joined the same mastermind. So we both joined Danielle Canty's mastermind. And then a couple of months ago, we got to meet and connect in person. And the thing that I love about you, so you are the community girly. When I think of you, I think of somebody who is so exceptional at all things memberships, events, and building incredible communities. You've got your Volume app and also Sales Spice, your programs, which I know at some point you'll share a little bit more about your work. I love that we have such shared missions, and it's really clear to me whenever we have conversations that we have so much in common, or so many thoughts in common around building community, around visibility in the online space in 2026, around what it looks like to stand out when you actually have a mission and you want to build a big, amazing business. So that's a very flowery introduction for those of you if you're coming across Vix for the first time.
Love that. And I'm going to do one for you too. So Volume listeners, if you haven't met Ellie before, I think I've known about you for a lot longer. And I don't think I've ever told you this, but I started my first mastermind because, as we all know, and if you don't know, Ellie is the mastermind girly. I started my first mastermind in 2023. And one of the people in my mastermind had previously been in a group program of yours and raved about you, was like, you need to know Ellie. She's the mastermind queen. She's amazing. It was my first ever time running a mastermind. And from that moment, I really just got into your podcast. I'm an avid listener of this show that I'm now on. So this is such a great moment for me. Learned so much from you about running a mastermind, building a mastermind, which was so fantastic. And yet came in from a very glowing recommendation. And so that's then what prompted me to slide into your DMs, because I was like, love your podcast. We're both IVF mamas. And I just resonated with so much about what you shared about your life and how you build your business and your mission and values, as you just touched on. But I was like, I need to know her. So then when I then saw you also in Danielle's mastermind, I was so excited knowing that we'd get to meet in April, which we did. And that was the kind of catalyst of us coming together here.
Oh, that's so kind, Vix. Thank you. Yes, it was it's, running masterminds and running group programs, there's really nothing better than when you form relationships inside those spaces. And I sometimes forget that as well. Like, this is a thing we both preach and talk about so much, right? But I was literally thinking about this last night ahead of this podcast. I was like, I'm so grateful that, when you join a mastermind, a group program, you get to really, you're like, what do I get to do here in terms of collaborations? Like, what are my collaboration opportunities, not just from a business building perspective, but also because it really does make business more fun. And I think that that's something that when you're in the day to day of building and generating leads and visibility and all of it, I forget that. So, reminder for anyone listening, like, find the people who have the same values as you, who you really resonate with. Create collaboration opportunities. So that's why we're here. We're going to do an epic episode for you today. And then we're going to I'm going to do that really annoying thing where I tease right now that there's something coming at the end that we're not going to tell you about yet. I'm going to be that annoying person. But that's what we're here for today. Not before we give you a shitload of value. Do you swear on your podcast?
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
I should have had that conversation beforehand. Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to share on today and speak to that next?
Absolutely. Both Ellie and I, and for those of you who are listening and you haven't been familiar with Ellie's before, she runs two incredible programs. So she teaches you how to start and grow your mastermind in the mastermind model, and then also has her own mastermind, the Scalable Freedom Mastermind, where she helps you scale your mastermind, right? And so we're both in the group spaces. We both help people with their group programs, their memberships, and their masterminds. And so when we met at Danielle's retreat, and the focus of the retreat was a lot around building your personal brand in the age of AI and standing out with your offers in the age of AI and in the online space and how it's changing. We kind of had a little meeting of the minds over lunch where we were talking about how can we bring this conversation to both of our communities, right? How can we bring this conversation about the changes in the online coaching industry with how group programs are changing already in 2026, also the rest of 2026, and then in the future? Because we had such a valuable conversation between the both of us and we wanted to bring it to you guys too. So that's how this kind of came about. And Ellie, I'm going to throw it back to you to kind of share a little bit more about what we're going to talk about in this episode specifically.
Yeah, amazing. So we basically wanted to bring you inside how we run our group coaching program businesses, because when we think about 2026 and we think about the really dynamic shifts that are happening, I mean, so much of the conversation we had was around growth. There are there's some real things that I think have been missing from the conversation that you and I started speaking to, and most of it was because our MO is running group programs. We're like, well, no one's actually talking about what this means for delivery of groups. Like, how do we not only, create transformation inside our businesses, our content, our systems, but what does transformation in 2026 actually look like for delivery? For your clients? We're having to think about things across multiple layers. And if you're listening to this and you're a coach or a mentor or somebody who is teaching your people too, you'll know that you're always thinking about things through that level of what does it look like for my business and what does it look like for my clients' businesses? So that's what we really wanted to bring you inside, because, it's something that we think about a lot, like 90% of the time. We're like, how do we actually support our clients better? And so that's what we're going to riff on a little bit. So it's almost like drum roll into the first thing that we're going to speak to. So I'll roll straight in. Okay, so we're going to dive into 4 different key points that we noted out before we jumped on the mic, and we'll own one each and then riff a little bit if we've got anything to add. The first thing that we want to talk about that we are really doubling down on in 2026 is we're thinking about our programs through the lens of time is like the most finite, precious resource that your high ticket buyers are making decisions with or without.
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is in 2026, if we look at the culture overall, we know that anybody who's investing in group coaching or a mastermind, especially, I mean, anything from membership through to high ticket, they're doing so because they're somebody who, for the most part, they've got their base resources covered. Like, we know that we're not selling people on transformative experiences who are, not able to afford their own food, water, shelter. Like, we are speaking to people who are already self-actualized. And at that level, the type of life that they're living, the type of privilege that they have, time is the thing that they do not have enough of. And so, if we think about the online space over the last 10 years, we know that we have been through seasons where there has been a lot of Zoom rooms and like just programs that have a lot, and people have bought a lot because of the layers of things that are inside programs. Something that Daniel Presley talks about this a lot. Like, he speaks to this concept that we used to buy based on all of the things that were inside programs, but now we're so much more concerned about that minimalism. And actually, if we're so stretched already, we're wanting less and we want shortcuts to the result faster. So
Mhm.
something that I'm thinking about a lot inside our programs is like, if my client's time is more scarce than it's ever been, how can I support them to get the same result or even better in less time? So, two really practical examples I'll share on that. The first is, and I've shared this for those of you that listen to the Scalable Freedom Show, you might have heard me speak to this one before because it's such a good example of what this looks like practically. We're all about the practical. So, we all want to have a village in our businesses, and yet a lot of us don't have time to be villagers. Like, truly. I
Mhm.
know I know that's certainly true for me. And so, running masterminds and teaching people how to run masterminds, a question I've been asking myself a lot this year is, how do we create community in a time where we have less time than ever to create community? And so, something that we did inside our mastermind, Scalable Freedom Mastermind, was we basically created this thing called community pairings, where every month someone can raise their hand and say, yes, I'd love to be paired with someone else for that particular month. Gives them an opportunity to go really deep with that other person that they're paired with and get to know them and build that bond and form some sort of collaboration, whatever that looks like. But they also don't have to, and they can self-select which month it is. So if you've got a really busy month, if you've got a launch or something else on, and you know that it's just not the month for you, you don't have to raise your hand that month. So that's an example of, like, you can continue creating really good community, can sell a mastermind or a program based on community, but it's not something that's going to take a lot of time for the people inside it. The second thing that we've been doing is focusing so much more on asynchronous support and really looking at, like, we've always done a lot of asynchronous support, but really playing like, how can we do it really, really well? And one thing that we've been doing this year is I created, instead of just doing like your standard copy reviews, is each week I'm doing more strategy focused reviews where people can share basically anything they want inside their business, from sales call transcripts through to like funnel start to end, whatever it might be, and go through and do more of that async support. So it means if they can't make it to a call or whatever else, they've still got the option to get my strategy brain in their business, and we can just loom back and forth. That's something that Danielle does inside the mastermind that we're both in, and I really loved that. So shout out to Danielle, because that was something that I implemented and just expanded upon based on what I saw her do there. So those are the things that I'm doing to like support my clients from a time perspective. What would you add there, Vix? What are you doing when you think about time?
When I think of time and when I think of how I structure my offers, but then how I also help my client structure their offers, one of the perspectives that I give is that exactly that you said earlier, that mental load. I talk about building the features inside your offers as taking away things from people's to-do list versus adding to. And more content, more worksheets, more things to figure out is giving them more things on their to-do list to work through. And we want to be doing the opposite. We want to take things off of the to-do list, right? So I look at where I can build more kind of tools, and I know that we're going to go on to that later, that actually helps them chip away at that to-do list inside the container versus having to go away and do homework kind of outside it. So
Mm.
that's something that I used to do a lot of in my programs was, especially when I did live cohorts, right? At the end of every lesson, here's your homework, go and do your homework, homework, homework. That was fine in the pandemic because people had all the time in the world. People were picking up so many different little side hustles and projects as homework. It worked then, not in 2026. So versus go away and do the homework. We're bringing in kind of co-working calls, come and do the work here. We're doing a lot more kind of themed calls. So it's not always just group coaching and Q&A. It's let's come and work on this thing. We just recently did an ads program, like a mini program where you come onto the call for 3 hours and we set the ad up inside of it versus telling you to go away and doing it. So that's something that we're trying to do to help save people the time. Because I also know for me, maybe it's part of my neurodivergence, I have ADHD and like the body doubling aspect of
Yeah.
things. I will get stuff done in community and in like a space. I will not always go and get things done if I'm left to my own devices without that kind of accountability and prod.
So good. I love that. I think also like such a tangible thing for everyone that's listening to be able to go, okay, if I'm looking at my program through the lens of actually less features and like avoiding the bloat, if you want to run a program for a really long time, like I always say to my clients, like start running a mastermind with features that you want to continue if you want to scale it to like 100 plus people. So really being mindful of just removing any of that bloat for yourself and for your clients as well. Love.
Love that. Yeah.
You want to hit
Okay.
one?
The second thing that we wanted to share with you is how we're kind of looking at the structure of the delivery of group programs and memberships and masterminds in 2026. And something that I have seen in my own business that has worked really well, and I've also seen it in clients' businesses that has been working well, is kind of blurring the lines between what is a membership and what is a group program. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about the kind of standard definitions or what it has always been considered about each of those, and then how the lines can blur in a really good way. So, traditionally, a membership was very much a monthly subscription where new, fresh content was delivered month on month on month, and that was your reason for resubscribing. The downside is that you can also then usually cancel at any time. So if the value isn't being delivered that's fresh enough, you can just cancel. Lots of us love the group program model because that is more of a commitment. People are committed for longer so that they stay and kind of do the work. And you don't necessarily need to be adding fresh content every single month. There's often a kind of core curriculum that people work through or a core framework that people are finding their pathway through that they work on over, a month, 3, 6, 12 months, whatever. And they also worked in different ways where a membership, or how I've always taught kind of memberships, is that you are teaching something that is an ongoing, essential skill. It is something people need to be doing daily, weekly, monthly for forever. And that's how you can increase retention. Whereas a group program has always kind of traditionally been what I call more like a one and done transformation. You learn the thing, you do the thing, off you go. You're kind of done, you finish. And what I was finding with so many of my clients who are running their group programs in that way was that you were then on that recurring revenue roller coaster. The group would finish after 3 months or 6 months or whatever the time length was. And then you'd be right back at zero revenue and trying to go again. And often finding that second and third launch harder because you've swooped up all your lovely warm hot leads and now you're trying to reach kind of colder audiences and trying to climb back to the heights of that first launch didn't feel like a very sustainable model. It felt like burnout. It felt like, oh my gosh, I've got to go again. And I was kind of like, there must be a way of blending the two. Now, for background, for those of you who don't know me, I ran a membership from 2019 to 2022. We grew to 1,200 active members. I only had a membership. I loved running it. And then I hated it and I closed it down. And then from 2022 all the way to 2024, I was the group program girly. So I was doing one and done transformations, group programs. And I just got to that stage where I was like, I miss the recurring revenue of a membership, but I love the depth and the support and the commitment of people in a group program. How can we look at blending the two? And so one of the key things that I touched on earlier was that thought around the ongoing essentialism. And why can't that be something you run a group program on? Right? Why can't you kind of pick out the kind of ongoing essential part of what it is that you teach and have that in an ongoing group program that people can re-sign into again and again and again, because they're always learning and deepening that skill, and it's always something that they're kind of practicing. And so I've been running my business like that since the end of 2024, now into the middle of 2026, and have enjoyed working with people over a long period of time to continue building upon those skills and deepening them, and not being on that such high kind of churn roller coaster, as it were. So that's what I'm kind of seeing. It's the kind of model that I recommend to my clients. Ellie, I'd love to hear how your model kind of fits into that, because I know that you have amazing resigns and amazing client retention. But it just helped me look at the, the kind of thought of wanting to keep clients and retain them for longer, not just to air quotes keep making money from them, but actually evolving, deepening, and building upon everything you work on.
Yeah, I love that because you're thinking about the transformation, uh, I really do think about legacy when it comes down to this
Mm,
conversation. Like if you're running a mission-driven business, and it's something I really love about you and seeing you, like you're always thinking about how do I actually deliver the most exceptional value? And the thing about a short program is that yes, you might create some incredible value or solve a specific problem for somebody, but if you, again, listening to this, are a coach, mentor, consultant, you know that that level of support deepens the longer that you support somebody. So the way that I think about this is like, ultimately, it's like, how can you create an opportunity to create a deeper transformation for somebody? So I love this because I think retention is one of the most untapped conversations in business and especially in online business. So yeah, inside our mastermind, we've had between like 70 to 95% retention for since we've been running it for like 5+ years. And the way I run the mastermind model, I do a similar group program and membership hybrid as well. And we started that last year. We actually haven't ever had this conversation before. So I love knowing that you're doing a similar thing. Because ultimately I'm always like, there's more that we can give here. And if someone steps into my world and they like the way that we work together, it feels like just an absolute missed opportunity and like I'm a real disservice if we get to the end of the experience and I've got nothing there for them that we can continue around. So the other thing that I think is really interesting about this is so often people resist retention opportunities with memberships or group programs in particular because they tell themselves the story of, well, shouldn't I have solved the problem though within the set time that I said I would work with them initially? But actually, someone will re-sign with you when the opposite happens. They will only re-sign if you fulfilled that promise. And so what it simply means is that you are not a one-trick pony. Like you
mhm,
have the opportunity to continue with them into that next stage. So when it comes
yeah,
to solving a problem for your ideal client, it's always like, okay, cool. That's the first problem that I've solved. You just want to know that you've got an opportunity to solve the next problem and the next problem and the next problem in their journey. So I love that because in 2026, we know that cost per acquisition is higher and higher. And I think it's going to continue to get higher. So if we can just keep being really smart about how do we retain, we were talking off mic before we started about lifetime customer value. Like how long can we keep somebody in our world and continue supporting them in our world in a really meaningful way? Like that is just going
yeah.
to be gold standard for those of us wanting to build big businesses in 2026 and beyond.
100%. And I think I had that same mindset a few years ago where I was like, I want everyone to be transformed and never need anything again. And it's not realistic. Like, we're at how many years into our businesses, and we are regularly investing in solving the next problem and the next problem and the next problem. And I work with my coaches over a long period of time. I've done the whole coach hopping thing earlier in business where I did like this little program and this little program and this mentor and this intensive and hop, hop, hop. But what I love now is when I find a mentor that I really align with, that I get a lot of value from, and I know that they can help me solve my next problem, my next problem, my next problem, I'd much rather stay with them because I've got the proof that they, exactly like you said, help me solve that first problem. And so it's not realistic for us to think that people are just going to be one and done and then off they go. They're just going to go and solve their next problem with somebody else. Whereas instead, you're a great service provider, you're exceptional at what you do. I think it's of more service to keep delivering and keep solving new problems with them. So yeah, I love how you put that.
It just goes to show, like, we really want to work with people. Actually, I'll come at this a different angle. Someone said to me, being liked doesn't actually really matter, does it? And I was like, being liked is so important. Being likable is actually a huge part of being a great coach or a mentor. Because if somebody likes you, they are genuinely going to want to stay with you, stay alongside you. You know, I hate using this language because it's been bastardized in the online space, but ultimately be in close proximity with you, they're only going to want to do that if they genuinely like you, in addition to the fact that you've ticked all the other boxes of being able to deliver on your service and being great at what you do and seeing them for who they are and all those things. So yeah, I think for all of you listening, if you don't have opportunities for long-term retention inside your business, like we would so encourage you to look at that and see what you can do there, because it helps you to create more scale, more freedom, ultimately saves you so much time, effort, energy, and front-end marketing costs.
So true.
I think we just made the case for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the third piece now, which is I think the way we're leading with this third thing is something that for those of you listening, you likely will have heard before, but we're going to come at it from a different angle. So the thing is that we know we are in a time of moving from information to transformation. And that's something that you and I have been thinking about and talking about so much. And so really the angle that we come at this from is like, if information is free and infinite, like what is a group program or a mastermind actually for now? And I love that we're having this conversation because I think that a lot of people are too afraid to have it. And you and I come at this in a really different way because, and I don't actually, the conversations I'm having with you right now, I'm not really having with anyone else other than inside my mastermind group with my clients. It's not something to fear, it's something to work with. And so, you know, we're both going, well, how do we actually center AI as part of this? And I feel like that's a little bit of a teaser for what's to come. So for those of you listening, like precursor to more at the end. I know I'm that person again. But really, it's like, well, if we're not selling on information, what does transformation look like in a really meaningful way? Like, how can we create meaningful transformation for our people? Something that I think about when I'm thinking about this concept that I come back to a lot, running a mastermind model, because a mastermind is something that from the outside might look a little bit less scalable, because often when you think mastermind, you think smaller group, and that is not always the case, but often you think that. But I've built a 7-figure business. You know, our business has done like 5 million in the last 5 years. And the way I think about this is that ultimately, sometimes doing the least scalable thing is the thing that will help you scale most. I think it was Paul Graham who first said that. So when it comes to transformation, the cool thing that we have at our disposal in 2026 is that we can actually get more personalized and do more of the unscalable things in a more scalable way because of AI. So tangible example of that is that we can use AI to create really personalized success plans. That's something that we're doing inside our mastermind right now, like really personalized success plans for our clients. That might be something that we would never have been able to do in the past because it would take like 10 hours of time. But now you can do it inside 30 minutes if you've got it trained really well to use your methodology plus the uniqueness of your ideal client. And then you're just using your brain for 30 minutes to actually make it really bespoke and ensure it's to the standard that you want it to be and got that human touch before you ship it to your client. So I think that is so cool. And again, I don't really hear anyone talking about this that much yet, that there's so many unscalable things that we can do to create transformation because we now have these extra tools at our disposal. So again, the way that I would think about this, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, what does that look like for me? Is I would think about, well, what can you do inside your business that is something that may have previously taken you a lot of time to personalize it, but now maybe you've got the opportunity to do that same thing in a more meaningful way using AI or, you know, whatever tools you have in 2026.
Yeah, love that. And I think that part of the conversation that we had when we met in person was really talking about the difference between what our clients need to know so they can do and what they don't need to know they can just do.
Yeah.
And that's something that I encourage everyone who's listening to this to be thinking about, because what we can often do is put such a block to progress in front of our clients by giving them information that we want to tell them, but they don't actually need.
Totally.
And to get into a bit of like brain, like adult learning psychology, the way people actually have a transformation is through the doing, right? Because information comes into the front part of our brain. And what we will do with that information is move it to a back part of our brain. And with that information, two things happened. It either gets remembered or it gets lost. Now, being remembered doesn't really do that much for us, right? I remember a quote from Friends 12 years ago. Do I need to use it in my daily life? Unless I'm maybe being like Chandler sarcastic, maybe not. But we either remember it or we lose it. When information enters our brain and we do something with it, it then gets committed to that part of the brain that can use it forever. And I think that historically in group programs and courses, the weighting between information and implementation has been skewed heavily on the information side and way less on the implementation. When we touched earlier on ongoing, keeping people in our world and helping them solve more problems, what it has historically been is you learn the information, you learn the theory, and then off you go and apply it, go and do it in the real world. That's why results in the industry are so terrible, being frank, right? Being honest. Those of you who can create the spaces where people learn what they need to know, but then have the space to practice it and do, that's where the real transformation comes, right? And so I'm going to kind of move this conversation on now to the actual, the practical part of how we can help our clients do more. Because Ellie's so right. AI to help you scale the unscalable things is such an opportunity that we all have to increase our client results and to improve their experience. And how I'm doing that inside of my programs, Ellie touched on it earlier, is actually building tools, building apps and building kind of software within my programs to help clients do faster. And I know that we're going to come onto this again, and I'm going to do it now. I'm going to do the tease. And we're going to
Yeah.
come onto that again in a moment. But looking at kind of that principle that I touched on earlier, where can you just help your clients do faster, quicker, or faster and quicker, the same thing, faster and better, and where can you take out and strip away what they don't need to know versus putting that as a barrier to their transformation?
Yes. It's so true, because I agree with this. The way, or something that we're working on right now. And for those of you listening, I'm very intentionally say the thing that we are working on right now, because I want you to know, like, I don't want you to listen to this episode and feel behind in any way. I want you to know that Vix and I are not one and done, and we haven't implemented every single thing that we're talking about right now. We're in the process of, no one has. Like, I work with like leaders in the industry, as do you, multi six, seven-figure leaders doing amazing things. Nobody has taken everything that we now know to be true in 2026 and implemented it all. In actual fact, the people trying to implement the fastest are usually the ones who burn out. And so please don't listen to this and feel like you're behind. The things that we are working on right now is looking at basically everything we teach and going, how can this be a tool instead of a teaching? And how can this be a template instead of a training? Like, it's all, how can we make this workable, to your point, and how can we make this structured in a way where they can just take it and do the thing, like tracking dashboards and just so much of it that is far more useful and implementable, rather than it being like, I need to sit down and learn. Because I don't know about you, but I think about the season of business that I'm in, like 10 years in, doing the thing, not in a season where it's like, oh, I need to learn how to sell or whatever so I can do that bit more effectively. I'm very much in a season of like optimization for more. Very rarely do I have like 3 hours to sit down and learn, for example. And so I can never expect that my clients are going to be able to do that too. Like, they need me to give them the things that they can take and use straight away. So yeah, that thinking about things as less information, more about tools, software, so incredibly important. Amazing. Okay. Anything you want to add to that? I feel like we just nailed our 4 things.
Yeah, no, I love these conversations, and like you touched on earlier, I love that we're having them together, but then I also love that we're having them with our communities, and we want to have more of these conversations.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, yeah, it's like we're all doing this together. Like we're all in this together. And I think it's really important that we have the spaces to share more of these resources because there is so much opportunity in 2026, and I know you feel this way as well. Like there is so, so much opportunity. And if you view this year through the lens of opportunity, like my husband, Che, literally just said to me earlier, I was sharing with him a client win. And this particular client is like so well placed for 2026. And he was like, you are going to look back on this time and you're going to think about your contribution to this
Mhm.
era. And I kind of like let that sink in for a moment. I was like, he's so right. Like when we're talking to our girls in 10, 20 years' time, we're going to be able to say, yeah, this was a really transformative era. And like, this is what we were doing to contribute to it at that time. So good.
Oh, it's
Okay.
exciting.
So, on that note, with everything we've just talked about, the way group programs are evolving, the shift from AI, from information to transformation, what it actually means to stay essentially irreplaceable as AI changes everything. This is the precursor to the thing that we've been teasing for this whole episode, which is a behind the scenes conversation in the form of a workshop that we want to bring to you on exactly how we are both using AI inside our group coaching businesses. We're hosting a free live workshop called AI Unrivaled. And the reason we wanted to create it specifically is because it's a conversation that we have both wanted and been craving and not heard before. It's the one that is specifically for those of you who run group programs, masterminds, memberships, because for us, it's not just about how we're using AI behind the scenes in our systems, in our content, but rather exactly how we're using it to deliver programs to our clients.
Yes, we are going to come together to show you exactly how we are building this AI inside our programs, inside our offers, specifically for creating deeper client results, but also how we're both using it to build more distinctive IP, how we can build those moats that everybody keeps talking about in this age of AI, and create these offers that no competitor or LLM, chat, and Claude can copy. And when you join us live, we are actually going to give you the 6-month roadmap, AI roadmap that both of us have co created. Touching on what Ellie said earlier about you are not behind, you just don't need to rush into anything that you don't need to be thinking about. What we're going to do is co create our AI roadmap for you so that you know step by step what to implement and what to build before 2027. And I'm so excited about building that with you, by the way. And this workshop is going to be completely free to attend live. And we're going to do it because Ellie's in Australia, I'm in the UK. We're going to do it across 2 different days and 2 different time zones on Tuesday, the 28th of July, or Wednesday, the 29th of July, depending on where in the world you are. So both of us are going to be up late and up early. We will offer you 2 sessions because this is a conversation you have to come live for. Like, we want you to be there live so you can talk with us in real time. So we want to give you the opportunity to choose the time that works best for you. The link to grab your seat will be in the show notes, or you can come over to my website, vixmeldrew.com/unrivaled. That's UNRIVALLED. Just saying that because I would totally just spell that with one
Oh,
L if I
yeah.
didn't have it written out loud. Vixmeldrew.com/unrivaled to RSVP.
So good. Fam, if you're coming to that first workshop, positive vibes only because it's going to be 4 a.m. my time. So I'm just going to with like peace, love, positive vibes, and I will make sure I have coffee. I'll bring my
Yeah.
own.
I'll put on some like Sean Paul in the green room before we go live so we can get like a little vibe going.
I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that. What's it gonna be? It's gonna be late for you. We're gonna be for those of you that are millennials, it'll be like rave days, like pretend like we're just going back in time. We're staying up all night. We can't wait. We're so excited to do this with all of you. And again, just to like bold and underline, we've made this free. Vix don't really give a shit about this topic. We care so deeply about sharing this with you. We really want to connect with you. We're so excited to have you there to hear what's happening for you and, what you're working on inside your businesses. So, yeah, please come and join us. It's going to be so worth your time. And I'm so excited to do this with you, my friend.
Yes, so excited. And before we leave, because we are remembering that we are on each other's podcasts, shall we just do a quick shout out of where people can find us and follow us along? Because we're going to be creating more content in the lead up to this incredible event too on our platforms. So if you're on the Volume podcast, you'll already know me, but I'll do this for everybody else. I'm Vix Meldrew, and you can find me on Instagram or Threads at Vix Meldrew.
Fab. So likewise, Ellie Swift, come over to Ellie, ELLIEH Swift on Instagram or Threads. Always here for a chat. So good. All right. We can't wait to do this with you. And just as a final reminder, can you just share that URL again, Vix, before we wrap?
Absolutely. vixmeldrew.com/unrivalled.
Thank you, fam. We will see you there.